Hi everybody, welcome to Impact's Government segment. I'm your host, Nick Barber, and we have a returning guest, Jim Valachovic. Hi Jim, how are you?
Nick, good to see you again.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Jim Valachovic is the CFO and the treasurer of Richmore Aviation, which is the FBO
Yes.
out at the Schenectady County Airport. Jim, you visited with us last spring.
Last spring we were out
Here on Impact.
Right, we're out. We just got done talking with the legislatures at the New York State to talk to them about some aviation taxes. And I was
Right.
giving an update on that.
Well, that's what we'll start off with. That's a good idea. The aviation tax was a detrimental tax to aviation and economic development, not just at the airport, but for the whole reason. So, where did that legislation go, Jim?
It never got out of committee again, so
Okay.
we're putting more pressure on the legislatures to take a look at what they're really doing and get instead of having a short-sighted view of taxes, get a little longer view of what aviation means here to the state.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a gentleman just recently. He has an airplane based out at Schenectady County Airport, and he had a New York State tax audit, and he had the privilege of writing New York State a check for a use tax on an airplane that he bought for his corporation,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't use commercially, and he didn't understand the implications of that until he wrote the check. And he said, if I ever had to do it again, I'd leave the aircraft outside New York State, I'd jump it in and take a flight and then leave again. He said, because it was very expensive.
And there wouldn't be any revenue for us, would it?
There would be
if
no
you have
revenue.
aircraft like that not coming here and not wanting to come here.
Exactly.
It's surprising that even an aircraft owner has some misunderstandings of this use tax. So basically, for the layman out there, if it's a commercial aircraft, it's exempt from taxes?
Right, if it's used in commercial aviation, in other words, an airliner, American Airlines, US Air, something like that, if they're using it in commercial aviation, in other words, it's out for hire,
Right.
or like Richmore does with their aircraft, if it's used over 50% of the time in commercial aviation,
Yes.
it's considered exempt from this type of tax.
I see.
But when corporations use those aircraft for their travel, and they don't use it in commercial aviation, the New York State looks at it a little bit differently and says, okay, I'm going to give you a sales or a use tax on that aircraft, and you have to pay for the privilege of being here in New York.
Okay, so what about leveling the playing field? What about surrounding New England states? Do they have the same policy or
No, they do not.
laws?
They do not. Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire don't have these type laws. Actually, and in Florida, I just saw a recent article where they're even exempting maintenance from taxes, even though we do have some of that here in New York. They're exempting the maintenance on certain aircraft down in Florida because they see this as an economic development, economic driver for their constituents.
Yeah. So what is it that our state legislators don't get about this? I mean, and you don't have to be, critical, but I'm just saying if I were a legislator and I could see that this is draining revenue and economic development from my constituency, basically, or my representative area, I would want to support this legislation.
They look at it this way. They see these aircraft coming in, they spend $60 million on an aircraft. And they're saying, geez, they should be able to pay, a couple $1 million.
Oh, isn't that the old saying? Oh, they have money, they should be able.
Yeah.
It's not the fact of how much money a corporation has. It's the fact of what's fair,
Right.
and what's right, and what has the impact.
And how they use it. Every time
I really don't like when I hear that. They go, oh, they can pay it.
Right.
That is a lame reason to impose taxes.
And if you look at it, every time an aircraft comes into New York and spends $1 million on their operation, they create 5 direct jobs. This is not indirect, this is direct jobs.
Yes.
4.5% of the state's gross product is related to aviation. That's a big chunk, and we need
Yeah.
to make that even better because New Yorkers love to compete, but we want to compete on a level playing field. And
Of
right
course.
now, it's not a level playing field.
Yes. Well, now, is this legislation back up again? Is it
I'm
being
going to check on it.
reintroduced?
I'm going to have to make some calls and send some letters again. I'm hoping, just keep pushing it. I'm hoping other constituents would help.
And
push
who
that.
are our legislators? Would be anywhere in the state? Or
Anywhere
is
in
it-
the state, because
yeah,
it seems to get out of the Senate, no problem, but it seems to stagnate in the
in
Assembly.
the assembly.
So that always seems to be, when we're talking to people, it seems the Senate gets it, the Assembly doesn't, so we got that logjam.
Well, we'll have to find out who chairs that committee, and maybe we could invite them on and see what they have to say about it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be. Well, we talked about your aviation background. Can we talk about that for a minute
Sure.
before we get back to Richmore and the Schenectady County Airport? And I had you on as a guest before, but I didn't know a lot about you, and now I discovered some new things. I thought maybe we should share them with the audience.
That's fine.
So, question number one, Jim Valachovic, how did you get involved in aviation in the first place?
I actually started with Richmore Aviation out at the Schenectady County Airport as a parts person, and I worked my way up through the organization, became the chief pilot of our charter operation. We were running Aerospatiale Nords in and out of Atlantic City, and then we got some Convair 580s, and I was part of that operation, and that was kind of interesting because in the 1992 campaign, we were out on the campaign trail with Bill Clinton, Bob Kerrey, Jerry Brown, Pat Buchanan.
Oh, great.
So I got to see firsthand what a campaign actually has to go through and what these people, whether you like them or not, what they go through to get that office.
That must have been very interesting. I remember Clinton was here. He stayed at the Holiday Inn when he was campaigning.
Yeah.
And he was doing something in Albany, but I guess the accommodations
weren't up to his liking.
Or he wanted to be outside of the area for security purposes.
He was a very personable person when we had him on the aircraft. It was just interesting to watch how they interact with people and all the steps they go through during their campaign.
So what kind of aircraft did you fly? Did you pilot?
I was a captain on a 737.
Wow.
I used to fly a Convair. I used to the Aerospatiale Nord. It was a 25 passenger aircraft, and I was a flight instructor out here at the county airport. So I've got an aviation background.
I guess you do. That's great. Very interesting. It's something that people should know.
Okay.
Well, what's going on in the aviation business as relates to our region besides that use tax? Are there any other issues or things that we could talk about today that are happening?
I think so. There's a lot of things happening in the region that could impact this county very, very favorably. I've been to a bunch of tech conferences and national business aviation conferences promoting the Schenectady County Airport and its close proximity to the GE Renewable Energy Headquarters, Global Foundries,
yes,
the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering. I went to the Semicon West. I was a guest of the Center of Economic Growth. And when I was out there, it was very interesting to see how much people from outside the region knew what was going on inside this region and how difficult it was for them to get to this region. Now, Richmore Aviation, being a business aviation leader, has the ability to bring these people in on a timely basis. And our airport is actually the closest, of course, to GE, but it's actually closer to Global Foundries than in Albany Airport.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, not many people think of it that way.
Not many people think of it that way, and we have the ability, as I like to say, we have the full service at Schenectady County Airport. If they bring their aircraft into our airport, we could fuel them and take care of them. If they have a maintenance problem, we can take care of it. And if the maintenance problem is so bad that they can't continue flying the trip, we could pull out one of our aircraft and continue anywhere in the world because we can fly anywhere on this globe if it's not a war zone.
That's terrific. Well, we got the Air National Guard right across the street, our neighbors across the runway anyway.
And it's a big economic, a big economic development engine for the region. Been working with the Glenville Small Business Economic Development Committee and Supervisor Ketsley on trying to promote more what can happen around that airport, in the way of small businesses that, can help with the tech boom that is actually going to happen here in this region. People don't believe it, but it's happening.
Well, people are pessimistic because we've had such bad experiences since '08 and even before that, and that is great. It's optimistic to see what's happening. The recent announcements with Global Foundries are great news for the region.
Yes.
And I guess others will follow. That's what usually happens, doesn't it? If you get a leader, it's like an anchor in a mall, you get, Macy's or somebody in there first and all the others follow. So now that Global Foundries has broken the ice, if you would, in this region, hopefully we'll have other companies coming in.
There are other companies, and people don't realize that the East Coast headquarters for Intel is over at the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering. Dr. Kaliaros has done a brilliant job over there. I mean, if you look at it, the world's coming to that college because the next size wafer for the tech plants is being developed right here in Albany. So people from around the world are going to be coming to Albany, this whole region, to find out what's next in tech. And people don't really realize that's what's going on here.
That's all good. So that name Tech Valley that was coined by, I don't know if it was Center for Economic Growth or the Chamber, is really appropriate.
It is appropriate.
For this region. That's all good news. Let's see, what else can we discuss here? We talked about, well, you're an economic developer, basically, because you go to a lot of conferences and you promote the airport, aviation, and the community. And that airport is, it's got room for growth. I mean, when I was with the county, I remember we had like over 70 acres or 73 surplus acres that were non-aviation use at the time, so it's a big place, right?
It's a big place. They're putting, there's going to be, starting here shortly, there's going to be putting in a sewer line that's going to come off Route 50 where they have sewer lines, and it's going to run into the airport tech park.
Oh,
And then they're going to be doing some ramp renovations out there, another $2 million
Mhm.
project. And Richmore is looking at an expansion of its facility out there, and we'll make that announcement probably in the next couple of months.
oh, that's great, good news.
Yes.
We have long runways out there too. I mean, it can handle just about any type aircraft. What's some of the biggest or more significant aircraft that have landed at the Schenectady County Airport? Because people think of it as like maybe a little cow pasture airport.
Right.
That don't know about it. It's upstate New York, or how big could it be, or what could the capacity be? But I know it's got long runways. That's all I know. So
Well,
maybe you could tell us.
Way back when, in 1988, I don't know if you were still in the county legislature, but we had the Concorde there.
Yes.
And we had the Concorde.
I remember that, yes.
We had the Concorde there. We've had C-5As. We've had KC-10s. The C-17s are a regular visitor from down from Stewart. So we can handle all that type of traffic. That's not the problem. The problem is getting people to understand what we can do out there.
Yeah.
So the airport can handle most big aircraft. Again, the county's looking at it and trying to improve it. You know, like I said, there's a
Yes.
renovation going on out there. So I think everybody's starting to see it a little bit different instead of just being a rich man's playground, which it's not. It's
Right.
an economic tool that the county can use to really help facilitate more business growth.
It was interesting that you said it's closer to the Global Foundries plant, the Malta, than the Albany Airport, maybe more accessible. Maybe some of the pluses are of the Schenectady County Airport that it can do things or has capacity or resources that a big commercial international airport doesn't because of all the congestion and traffic and problems.
Yeah, you have the.
So how does Schenectady County sort of augment or enhance, the Albany Airport, the international airport?
Well, if you look at the Albany International Airport, John O'Donnell and his crew do a very good job over there with their commercial aircraft. But they have restrictions through the TSA that we don't have to necessarily have at the Schenectady County Airport because we don't have commercial traffic. So when we're looking at the Schenectady County Airport, we're able to serve the business traveler in a much more convenient manner than they could over at the Albany Airport because of the restrictions they have with the TSA. And plus, since we're closer and there's road reconstruction on between Glenville going through Clifton Park, they're redoing that whole road. It'll facilitate traffic getting to the plant. And we're only 15 miles from the plant. Saratoga Airport's closer, but it's not as big. Saratoga's runways aren't as long. They don't have the precision approaches we do. If you look at what we have, no one's going to build an airport like this in this economy. And we have
No,
it.
I
We
could
have
see
it.
not from scratch, or
Not
not
from
even
scratch.
enhancing a small airport.
Right.
How does the Air National Guard 109th neighborhood relationship work with commercial and private aviation?
They work great. We have really no problems with that. The coordination is simple because we have a control tower, which is the county has the control tower out there. So that really is not a problem at all. And it actually enhances the airport because the guard's always busy, and they have a very big presence, and they're a very big economic engine here in the county. So they're very important and a good neighbor for us.
So Schenectady County Airport, a great resource, a big economic development engine for the region, not just Schenectady County.
Yes.
And Richmore Aviation, who you represent, is the fixed base operator, correct?
Yes, we are.
What kind of other activities go on there? Aviation fuel sales? I know there's a training center out there, something new. The military, something happened
Yeah,
there?
the Navy Reserve Center has just put in a big facility there. Fortitech bought up some spare surplus property and put their another facility right there at the airport, and it's very nice. We have, again, they're putting in a sewer line that's going to help. Richmore Aviation also works with Schenectady County Community College on their air traffic control program, which
Oh
is
yeah, we
approved.
should mention, thanks for mentioning that.
Which
It's a
is-
great program,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's a very new program.
Yeah.
It's very good for those people looking to go to get an associate's degree instead of a bachelor's degree. If you look at it, you get an associate's degree through Schenectady County Community College. You go to 1 year training out in Oklahoma City, and you become an air traffic controller, and you're starting at a very nice starting salary, and you have to retire what I'm told is about 54 years age. 54
Oh.
years. So that's and
Mandatory,
you
that's
you
good.
make if you look at some of the salaries, it averages about $100,000 for you once you become a senior controller, which is a good job for a 2-year degree.
That's a nice career track, yeah.
Mhm.
As
And-
was the nanotechnology. I don't know if they still have it at the community college,
They-
but I know they ran it for a a while. It was highly successful.
It was highly successful. I know
Yeah.
Hudson Valley Community College's work is doing a very good program out there. I know Dr. Bullard is working very diligently at Schenectady County Community College
Yep.
for a battery program, and
Yeah.
with these other programs that he's been working on. And
Yeah.
it fits right in there with that 2-year degree. You don't need a 4-year degree to get a good job.
Yeah.
Some 2-year degrees, you can get a very good job.
Yeah, that's excellent, wonderful. Technical training, yeah.
Yes.
Specific technical professional training. Well, let's get back to that legislation that we have to keep kicking the can with here, right? So what was it called before? Was the aviation use tax or?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I will get you that exactly.
All right,
The
well,
two-
we'll get
the
that.
two bills that are actual. There's a House bill and there's a Senate bill, and I'll get you those numbers. We got to get the legislatures to understand. If they take a long view of this, they'll get their sales tax in the way of fuel sales. They'll get their taxes with payroll taxes, with employment, with mortgage taxes, with
Yeah.
when people are actually working and actually spreading the wealth a little bit, they'll get their taxes.
I suppose if you actuarially did the studies, you're a finance guy, it would show that we're really not losing much, or if
No,
anything at
we're-
all. Maybe
we-
we'd be gaining.
We'd be gaining.
Yeah,
we'd
and
be-
that's all good.
That's all good.
So we need to lobby the New York State Legislature to regenerate and reintroduce these bills.
Yes.
And bring more attention to it. So we'll keep following this issue with you. And we've been visiting with Jim Valachovic. Jim Valachovic is the CFO and treasurer for Richmore Aviation, the FBO or fixed base operator at the Schenectady County Airport. Well, it's great to see you again. I'm happy that you came back, and we'll keep following this issue, and we'll report back at another time and see how it's going.
Good, Nick. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for coming, Jim.
All right,
It
thank
was
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been watching Impact. I'm Nick Barber, your host. We'll see you next time.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.